What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Clayton Keller, who could be the best player the Arizona Coyotes ever drafted. And hear us out, guys. Don't freak out. I know everyone's saying that Shane Doan is the face of the franchise, but Shane Doan, unfortunately, he's retired. So someone needs to step up and take the mantle. Clayton Keller is that guy. As of right now, he has 81 points in 75 games, 36 goals, and 48 assists. If we look at the record for most points in a season, Clayton Keller is 5 points shy from tying Keith Tkachuk with 86 points. He had 52 goals and 34 assists in 81 games. Clayton Keller is a couple games away from reaching 81 games and reaching Keith Tkachuk's record, which I think he will easily surpass and become the best player that the Arizona Coyotes have seen in terms of points.
Yeah, well, I think he's played some fantastic hockey as of late, and obviously we talk about Arizona. We don't always talk about them being we never talk about Arizona in a positive light, and I think it's always good to shine a positive light when there is one. And I think Clayton Keller's had a really good, fantastic season, and I think it's interesting. I look at Arizona as future, and I look at Clayton Keller, and I look at how well guys like Nick Schmaltz have played this year, and how well Andre Tournier has done with a team that is very below average, and I think it's been impressive. And he's done it with a lot of guys that aren't necessarily at their best. He's turned Barrett Hayden's career around a little bit. He's made Nick Schmaltz have a really good year, but he's also made guys around them better. And I think that, honestly speaking, this is a guy that signed a $7.15 million contract in 2020, 2021 as a contract extension that was signed by John Chayka, and it was an 8-year deal. And basically, the expectation is that Clayton Keller was going to be the face of the franchise for the Arizona Coyotes. And, obviously he already is, right? And now you look at the prospects that Arizona have drafted, obviously Logan Cooley being in the mix as well, going to join them in a couple of years. That's a good already kind of starting point for Arizona in the sense where, you're going to have Logan Cooley, you're going to have Clayton Keller, and it looks like reinforcements are going to be coming for Arizona. And so, I'm excited. I like Clayton Keller. I think he's a great player. I think he's super underrated in the NHL. I think the problem with Clayton Keller is that he doesn't get enough love because of the fact that he plays for Arizona. But I think for how bad Arizona is and how good Clayton Keller is, I think he's showing it this season. And he's really taken it up a notch with how well he's played and how well he's performed. And he's making that $7.1 million contract look like a steal. And at the time, it was a steal when he signed it because he was good enough for a $7.1 million contract. But I believe this is a guy that, you throw him on any contending team in the NHL, and I believe that he's probably about a $9 million player at production as a $9 million player. He's got 81 points as an Arizona Coyote, right? Which is tough to do, especially with, like I said, how bad the team is. And so, being 5 points away from Keith Tkachuk for the all-time points lead ever by an Arizona Coyote in a single season, I think that's really, really, really impressive. And I think that's something that people should give him credit for, right? Because, it's tough to do it in a market like Arizona. It was tough when Shane Doan was there. It was tough when Keith Tkachuk was there. And, Arizona hasn't made the playoffs in a long time. And so it's interesting. I know they made it in the play-in round, but like technically speaking, I don't count that as the playoffs. But either way, this is a guy that, is super young, 24 years old. But not only that, he's on a really bad Arizona team. And I'm hoping that Arizona, after Logan Cooley, will build around him and will put the assets necessary so that Arizona can become a competitive team. But not only that, Clayton Keller can finally, really show his true talent because, to be honest, this is a guy that, is on the third year of a $7.1 million contract. But in 2 years from now, he's got a no trade clause, right? And so this is something where, if Clayton Keller wants to, in 2024-25 or 25-26, if he doesn't see improvement in Arizona, he can turn around and say, listen, I'll waive my no trade clause, trade me somewhere else, right? And so that's where I think there's going to be very interesting situations. But, he's a good player on an awful team. And it's, like I said, what he's done is just impressive. Nothing more than impressive.
And look at the age of Kachuk and Keller. They're
Yeah.
both 24 years old, and they're in the top two for most points in a single season for the Arizona Coyotes. And seeing Clayton Keller in the same company as Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, and Shane Doan, it's very, very impressive stuff. And it's positive to see that Clayton Keller has developing into a star essentially. I know people are going to be like, well, he's not an NHL superstar, but guys, he's
He
in
is.
the top 20 right now in points in the whole NHL. So we have to take that into consideration too and look at the team he's playing with. And Arizona has won some games that they weren't supposed to, and we thought they would be below where they are right now in terms of the standings. But they're above some of bottom tier teams, and it seems like we're slowly starting to see a little bit of progression in terms of the Arizona Coyotes. And like you were saying, there's enforcements, but a huge reason why the Coyotes have been winning games that they're not necessarily supposed to be winning is because of Clayton Keller's game and how he's taken the next step forward into becoming the face of the franchise. And will he become the best Arizona Coyotes player of all time? I don't know. I don't know about that. I know people say that it's Shane Doan. Other people say it's Keith Tkachuk or Jeremy Roenick. But Shane Doan has spent his whole career with the Arizona Coyotes. He was very loyal. Keith Tkachuk wasn't with them. And same thing with Jeremy Roenick. They played for other teams. Clayton Keller, can we see him in a Arizona Coyotes jersey for the rest of his career?
That's going to be dependent on what the GM decides to do in terms of adding players. Like I said, they've got Logan Cooley coming up. They have other prospects that look good. Machelli had a good year this year too for Arizona. He looks promising, but it's a question of what's Arizona's plan moving forward. Obviously, with the new arena in Tempe in the next couple of years, and the fact that they're playing a 5,000 seat arena, people are not giving much hope for Arizona. But I think, to be honest, the best thing that's ever happened to that team is going into Mullet. And I'm going to tell you why. You know, the atmosphere, I know that it's a 5,000 seat arena, and I get that. And I know that we're kind of talking about Clayton Keller here, but I'm going to talk a bit about Arizona too. It just feels like the dynamic is different. You know, there's a different feeling, a different aura to playing in an arena like Mullet Arena. And for some reason, Arizona just seems to go there and give teams a hard time. And I think it's because teams aren't used to it, but I also think it's just because Arizona's embracing it. And I think this year, one of the biggest things that's been interesting about Arizona is yes, you can give credit to Clayton Keller, absolutely. But this is all Andre Tourigny. And since Andre Tourigny took over for Arizona, Clayton Keller's game has changed. The way he's played, the way he moves the puck, the way he makes decision making is all based on the fact that yes, he's taken a step up, but Andre Tourigny has been a big part of Clayton Keller's development. Right? Look at how well a guy like Yusuf Valimaki is doing. Look at how well a guy like Karel Vamelka is doing. Nick Schmaltz, Matthias Michelli. This is all because Arizona is overachieving because of how good they're getting in terms of development, how good they're getting in terms of coaching, and not only that, they're getting guys that are stepping up that you wouldn't necessarily expect to step up, right? They had Shane Gostisbehere firing on all cylinders before they traded him at the deadline. They had Jacob Chikrin playing some of the best hockey of his career before he got traded at the trade deadline. So, this was a team that looked promising and, kind of moved on from guys and assets at the beginning. But it needs to be a situation of, is Bill Armstrong looking at this team short term and saying, you know what, we can add some pieces here. We have a good coach. Or are they just going to be mediocre forever? Because if they're going to be mediocre forever and they're never going to take the next step, then I don't think Clayton Keller is going to be an Arizona Coyote for a long time. Because I think at some point he's going to turn around and say, you know what? No, I don't need to be here. I'm going to go to unrestricted free agency, or I'm going to ask for a trade, and I'm going to go play somewhere else on a contender that deserves me. Right? And he's 24, and like I said, he's got 5 years left on his deal. By the time his contract ends, he'll be 28, 29. Like, he'll still be in his prime at that point. Right? So he can definitely turn around and go, you know what? I'll just go to a contender, a team that wants me, a team that needs me, and I'll go produce over there. So it's going to be dependent on Arizona's management. It's going to be dependent on how well Arizona builds their team and what their plans are moving forward. But, this is a guy that's going to hit 40 goals. I think he's got 38 already. I think he's going to hit 40. Actually, he's got 36, not 38. Sorry. But either way,
He'll hit 38.
huh?
He'll hit 38.
Yeah, he'll hit 38. He'll probably hit 42 with the fact that there's about, 7 games left in the season. I think he'll definitely be able to do that. He can score 4 goals in 7 games. I can see that happening. And, it's been impressive. And Clayton Keller, when he's healthy, is, underrated. When he's not healthy, he's dealt with injuries too. It's been a little bit of a problem. But if he can remain healthy and play full seasons for Arizona, this is a guy that can get you 70, 80 points easily. And like I said, if he was on a contender, I think he'd have more. But because he's not, 81 points is very impressive considering the fact that, he's on the Arizona Coyotes. So,
Yeah, and if you look at the bottom tier teams, so Arizona, Montreal, the Ducks, Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, and San Jose, yeah, there's Erik Karlsson who's about to hit 100 points, but anyone else that's like on Keller's level, there isn't. There's no such thing. Keller
oh,
is the best forward in terms of points out of the teams I named, and 81 points. And the guy who's right behind him, Nick Schmaltz, 54 points. Huge gap. If that's not an NHL superstar,
yeah,
I don't
he's
know what
carrying.
is.
Clayton Keller's carrying. He's literally
Exactly.
carrying. And like, you know
Exactly.
what? Like to me, that's what defines a superstar, right? Like you said, if that's not an NHL superstar, I don't know what is. To me, it's a guy that's able to take the team on his back and make the difference. And he's done that this season. I think he's done that for multiple years, but like I said, injuries and the fact that he plays for Arizona played a factor for it. But this year, he's taken another step. And if Arizona can add and actually make their team a competent NHL team, well, they've got a superstar in the making already, and they're going to get another one if they get Logan Cooley and whoever they decide to draft this year as well. So Arizona's looking promising in terms of prospects and in terms of what they're trying to build for the future. It's just a matter of, are they going to actually, do they actually care about wanting to win, or is it a question of, do they just care about staying in between the cap? That's where the issue lies for Arizona. But in terms of Clayton Keller, in terms of a pure player, and in terms of a pure superstar, yeah, he's definitely a superstar. I think he's super underrated. I think he's one of the most underrated superstars in the league. And I don't think he gets enough credit, but his contract looks good, and that's a guy that I think any team in the NHL would love to have. So that's just kind of my opinion on Keller, and I'm curious to see what he finishes with in the next 7 games. I'll put a prediction there and say he finishes with 90 points.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid number to finish with. Hopefully in his career, especially with the names that you mentioned, if he's going to be, the focal point of this team for years to come, I would love to see him hit 100 points at one point in his career with the Arizona Coyotes. So, guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure to comment if you think Clayton Keller is very underrated, or if he's overrated, if he's an NHL superstar, if he's not an NHL superstar, and also, is he the face of the Arizona Coyotes, and will he be the best Arizona Coyotes player of all time? Make sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Young Guns podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.